Hello, hello, welcome back to channel. Today we are going to be looking at 3 challenges that are all from the same website, which is www.escapewithdollycas.com. These are all challenges that I have done in part, at least one of them, for the last 3 years. I started partway through that first year. I did finish it, but it was a challenge to get there. And then the next year I ended up doing, I believe, all of them. So this is my second year doing all 3. There are quite a few other challenges available on this website if you are interested. And then at least one of the challenges has secret challenges every single month. So if that's something you're interested in, be on the lookout for that. We will look at that. Actually, that first challenge, the first challenge we're looking at is that one. So let's get started. All right, so there are 2 alphabet challenges. The first one is for title. Now, something to be aware of titles for how I do title challenges is I don't use any of the articles, so a, an, or the, when I'm looking at a book that fits that prompt. So just as an FYI, you won't find a, an, or the on A or T for any of these, and then if it has either any of those words, I will skip that. And if there's like the queen, it would be Q for queen. So if that isn't how you want to run it, just be aware. So if you're choosing a book, you know to take a look and see if it would potentially cause you to break your rules if that's something you're looking at. So I have 5 more letters left to do. They are the ones that have an option for me to potentially pull that is at 30% opacity. On here. So that would be A, I, Q, Y, and Z. So if you have books that you think are amazing from those, please let me know. I have not yet chosen for sure what one I'm going to be doing. Now, of these, I will say that most of these are ones that are from either a series tracker, so that would be Z, and Q and A all came from my series tracker, so I've read another one in that series, or they came from another challenge, which would be Y and I. I don't necessarily think that means I'm stuck with these exact choices. Most of them I will likely read at some point, but I am sort of promoting them up before the end of the year. And if there is another one that is absolutely phenomenal, I would definitely be interested in hearing about it, whether or not it makes it onto this particular challenge page, just because I have a TBR that feels never ending and I'm constantly taking a look at them and reading some really good ones from you guys and from other book YouTubers and bookstagrammers and things like that. So let me know. All right, that being said, and that's the same for all of the challenges, books that were 4 stars. So the Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I've mentioned before, very much am enjoying that series, and it is a 4-star for me. And then Just Stab Me Now by Jill Barrett. I've mentioned this one also before, that I think that it was really funny and well written. Going back and forth between the author's view and the protagonist's view and the interactions, and it's great. I very much enjoyed. And then I had 2 more that were at the bottom there under V and W, and they're both for the In-Depth series, which I'm also really enjoying, but it has been on hold for the past couple of months, so I need to jump back into it. Ones that weren't really for me, Mrs. Galloway, which I've mentioned before, it just wasn't really something that I particularly am going to find myself drawn to reading in the future. If I read it again, I think I would have more appreciation for it, but it's not going to be one that I'm going to find myself pulled back to reading again, or one that I'm going to find myself recommending to friends and family, unless they're looking for a very specific reading prompt. And I was like, oh yeah, that would fit. Then I might recommend it, but generally speaking, it's not going to be one that comes to mind regularly for me. And then Shadowface was the other one that wasn't really one that I thought was for me. It just, I've already talked about this book before, about what are the things that I didn't really love about it, and so I'm not going to get into it a ton, but it had some things that were, especially towards the end, I didn't think were in line with the characters and how they had developed. I also didn't like how they portrayed specific issues that were going on. I just didn't really love it, and I thought it could have been done better, and I thought it was a little bit lazy at points, to be completely honest. But that being said, I know that there is definitely people who would enjoy the book, so I'm not gonna like say it's a horrible book. I just don't think that it's one that I would want to read. So this will be a series that I likely do not find myself going back to. At least unless I definitely need something that I think that I will get for a challenge. It's not one I find myself drawn back to. All right, then we get to the secret challenges. Every month around the first of the month. Sometimes it's the day before the first, sometimes it's the second, but usually on the first. On the website, not website, on the Facebook for this particular challenge, you're able to get a little graphic, and it tells you exactly what the mini challenge is for that month. I only did the January and February because I kind of fell off. We've already discussed all the things that were going on. So I went back through this weekend and found books that were either on my TBR for other things, just like on the other ones, or they were on a series tracker, that one more than anything else, or they were marked as I'm interested in it for my library, etc., etc. On this page, that would be the month 3. So I'll go through each one and explain what book I chose and etc. So the first one was January, which was weather, and it was basically any word that had an element of weather in the title. I chose Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, and I give it 4 stars. This is one that my husband picked, and I very much enjoyed it. It was, I think it was sci-fi, but it was also like a futuristic, dystopian sort of novel as well. So hopefully, if that is something that sounds like you would enjoy, let me know. There's definitely some overlap with Ready Player One in some areas, in that there is a online world and people are out to get people, and there's lots of things going on that cross over between real world and not real world. I've read them both in not too far apart from each other, and I enjoy both of them, and they both got 4 stars. So that may be something I need to seek out more of, is things that are in that realm. February was a one-word title, and Bloodlines became available from the library that month, so that one hit the box really easy. March, this one was one that I only read a couple of books in March, so I did not even, there was really no way this one was going to happen, and I stopped really looking at them in March. And then I got back into them end of last month, and I'm hopefully going to be starting to be able to check them off again and then hit the backdated ones. Even though I can't get like credit for them, I still want to try to finish them by the end of the year. So I needed a book that had either the word Ireland or Irish in the title. I could also choose something that was Irish in the title, so I guess if I wanted to choose like an Irish food maybe, or maybe something that only is in Ireland, but I feel like that would be more difficult to be able to, I'd have to sort of prove my point about why I thought that would be there. So I mean, I guess if I wanted to do something for like Loch Ness or Nessie or something that could potentially fit into something Irish in the title. Thoughts. But for now, I chose a book that ended up, this one, I believe I got for free. Back in the time when I was first going through and like picking out books, every time they'd be like, oh, these books are free, and I'd be like, awesome, I'm gonna pick out like all these books. Now I'm a lot more picky about the books that I choose, because I end up with a lot of books I never get around to reading, and I feel bad for never getting to them. So this is one of the ones I didn't get to. It's Dirty Irish, and hopefully I will get to that one this year and decide if I want to move forwards with the rest of the series. So then we have April, which is a book with a word or something that you would find in the bedroom. And I don't know if this one counts or not. I think it does, because even if it's something that I would necessarily find in the bedroom, it might find me, which is a dream. If I'm going to be finding a dream, it's likely going to be while I'm asleep, and I tend to sleep in a bedroom, right? So that was my thought on that one. Let me know if you think that's too far-fetched, and I will go back and find another option there. Then we get to this page, which are all ones I have not yet read. Only August is one that I'm not behind on, putting that out there. So May was birds. So I needed to find the word bird or birds, or a specific type of bird in the title. This one was a little harder to do because there are so many kinds of birds that are out there. I probably have read a book this year that has a word that has to do with birds in it. But I may not know, because unless you know a ton about birds, you may not have any idea, right? But like, I have no idea. I literally just said that. It's been a long day. And it's going to be longer tomorrow. But that's okay. Apologies. So I ended up choosing I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, and that's because it's already on one of my other challenges. It wasn't slated to be read anytime soon, but I do need to read it sometime before the end of the year, so I went ahead and slotted it in for May. June, I actually clicked into the tracker for my brain. Storygraph. That's what I was looking for. For Storygraph, to see what other people had read. And some more of you ended up coming up, and I was like, oh, that's adorable title. Very, very cute. But it's definitely a summertime activity. It's making s'mores. I haven't done it this year. We did it last year. So I'm counting it. And it will be a contemporary romance. That's pretty much all I know about it, other than the fact that it's part of an Amazon collection, which means it's probably going to be a little shorter. And there will be probably between 3 and 5 books total in the collection. They'll all be separate. There may be audio. Sometimes if you have Kindle Unlimited, it will also give you the audiobook on Audible for you to check out. So curious to see if I'll be able to audiobook this one. If so, I will likely audiobook it. And then for July, I had to pick something that I either had the words red, white, or blue. So White Witch, Black Curse by Kim Harrison is already on my list for a different challenge. So I went ahead and popped that on there because I will have read it for the end of the year for that challenge. So it should check that one off. And then we get to August, which is this month. For this one, it was something that is in the mail. So something I can receive in the mail. And your first thought may be like, why would you choose tea you at the altar? It's like, it's not going to be altar because that's a huge thing you couldn't really mail. So it's got to be tea, right? Why would you put tea? Tea isn't something you get in the mail. Well, let me tell you a little story. When I first started dating my husband, we were dating long distance. And it was very difficult to meet up anywhere because this was we started dating right before COVID lockdowns. I think it was like we started dating in November, and then obviously the lockdowns were early the next year. And so we couldn't really see each other all that much other than online because there was nowhere we could go. Plus, anytime I or he were to travel, we'd have to not go to work for a while. It was a whole thing. So, plus I am more vulnerable generally speaking. So traveling was always a bit of a, will I get sick? Most likely. Well, let's see how this goes kind of situation if that was going to be happening. So anyway, there was mostly online and on the phone type of conversations and hanging out sessions and things like that during a good chunk of the time we were dating for the first almost year, or I guess just about a year. And one of the things that we did, other than just like hanging out online and watching movies and playing games and casting games and D&D and all kinds of craziness, had a lot of fun, was a tea subscription. I bought a tea subscription. It would come to me every month, and then I would break the 1.5 ounce tea samples into a little bag for me and for him, and I'd write on there like what it was, what all it said, blah 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 blah. I'd send him pictures on my phone of what like the descriptions were and everything, and I'd mail all of this, the half of the samples over to him, so we could have tea together in the mornings because he was a third shifter, or while we were like hanging out at night on the weekends, we could drink the tea, talk about the tea, etc. It was a thing we could do, and it was probably a little bit ridiculous and definitely not good for the good for the environment because lots of mail and yada yada yada. But it was something that we could do that we both really enjoyed, and we still have a very large tea collection to this day that we drink. He drinks a lot more variety of tea than I do. I will say he is much more adventurous in his tea selection than me, but it is something that we still enjoy to this day because of something that we were doing while we were dating. So it holds a place for me, and it was something that has to do with the mail, and I could get it in the mail, I can send it in the mail, so I picked it. If you disagree and you think that that's not really what they thought for this, it really should be something like mail or letter or whatever, then let me know and I can change it. But it's the first thing that came to my mind when I was looking at books that were on my list for reading coming up shortly. I was like, that one, because story. And so that's where I'm putting that one for now. Let me know if enough people disagree and think I should switch it over. I definitely will. But little story from the early life of my husband and I together. Obviously, I don't have the last 4 months yet because we have not gotten them, and they come out the first of every month. So we'll fill them in as I go. Then we get to the author edition. And I am a little further behind in that I wanted to wrap this one up, and I'm not even close to wrapping it up yet in the amount of time that I planned on it. So apologies for going a little longer than normal, than I anticipated, but I'm a chatterbox, and I've been gone for a while. So apologies. Anyways, I have 2 left to go here, Q and Z. Books that I thought were 4 stars and above. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Rachel Gillig's One Dark Window. I believe I've spoken about that before. Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I have one that needs to be removed, but I need an L book now too, but I think I can fix that one because I already have that one elsewhere. So I can't put that there. Made a mistake. I will fix that as I'm scrolling. Glint by Raven Kennedy, also 4 stars. And Uprooted, Naomi Novik. Very much enjoyed that. My husband and I both enjoyed it. We Who Will Die by Stacia Stark. And Cold Iron by Meg Zume X, which is another one I really liked that I've talked a bit about already. So a lot more 4-star books on the author page than on title. There's really no rhyme or reason. That's just kind of how it worked out. So I have 3 now that I need then. So Q, Z, and L, because I need to fix Breaking the Parking Rules because I already have it elsewhere. All right, so literary escapes. There are 51 spots, so it's the 50 states plus DC. Let me move myself to the center real quick. So on this one, I have quite a few more open spots than I do on any of the other ones. There's a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons being that a lot of books don't actually say where they're set. They'll tell you what's around them. They'll tell you we're on the coast or we're in the woods or etc. And you can sort of estimate where you think they're going to be. Like, okay, well, they're probably in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, well, they're probably along the coast in the Northeast. Oh, they're probably somewhere in like Texas, Oklahoma. That based on what's going on. And what the scenery looks like, and etc. Or, okay, that sounds like maybe Montana. Is that really Montana? But you don't know for sure where they are. And a lot of that's probably purposeful. But unless it actually says this is where it's set, or I can find it online, because sometimes they'll say that, in a book elsewhere, then I don't put it on here. So as you'll see, California, I'm breaking the fucking rules. So I either need to switch out California, which may be the easier way to do it now that I'm thinking about it, or I need to switch out the L on author. Either one of those would be acceptable, just they can't both be there. Okie dokie. So, ones, and now that I've said why there are so many, this is another one that is more difficult for me than the other two, because on all of these so far, I haven't really, until the last couple of months, been searching for books specifically to finish any of these. Just because I haven't really needed to. They've just been filling up naturally as I read through books. I do know that I read a lot of books. I won't say it's across like a wide spectrum, but it's a decent spectrum, I think, of types of books and authors and things like that. So I tend to just naturally come across a lot of different titles, a lot of different authors, a lot of different locations when I'm reading books. So I haven't really spent a lot of time going into it. But in the last quarter of the year, this one tends to be one where I spend a bit more time just trying to knock them out in time. And I don't know that that is the best option for me. So maybe I'll do some extras of this one next month. I'm still debating. That way I have a little bit more free space as it is, because October is obviously Magical Readathon, and then there's usually like a holiday one in December that I end up picking up and trying to finish up a whole bunch of ones all at once. There's a lot going on. And this is one that I've got quite a bit of ways to go still. So if you have ideas for any of these locations, please let me know. I've got Alabama, Arkansas, Delaware, Hawaii, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Arizona, Nebraska, Montana, Mississippi, Maryland, Kansas, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Rhode Island, South Dakota, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. Still to go. So if you're like, oh, I have a fabulous book from that location, I would love to know. All right, so ones that are 4 stars, Breaking the Fucking Rules. I really enjoyed this one. I believe I've already spoken about it before. Tourist Season was also a 4-star for me, which does not surprise me at all. I tend to very much enjoy Bren Weaver's books. Holiday in Death, which is another one of those in-depth books. So now there are 3 that I've had 4 stars we've talked about today. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, and another of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, Carl's Doomsday Scenario, also ended up being a 4-star on my list. So yeah. Now I will say, past Carl's Doomsday Scenario, I did not choose a location for any of the books because I feel like they've traveled too far at this point to be able to guarantee that they're still in Washington. I mean, he's been traveling from multiple levels. Things have been moving. He's being portaled around. And then there are some places where they're literally like, okay, we've recreated parts. You know, I just don't think that it's possible to be able to definitively say there's a location, except for maybe one of the books other than this. But I don't need another country, so we're good. But anyway, I don't think there's another way for me to guarantee that it is in Washington or any particular location. So you only see one of them on there, even though I've read a bunch of them. Yeah, that's all I gotta say on that. And then we have our last one, which is Countries, which is actually part of the Literary Escapes. I don't know if this was on there last year or if it's just me sort of missing them last year and not realizing. And there was a couple last year, but this time there are 11. And I feel like there was not 11 different countries on last year's one. I could go back and look, but I remember thinking when I was making everything, I was like, 11? I don't remember there being 11 countries. I know there were bonuses last year, and there were a couple countries on there, but I don't remember there being 11. Anywho's, all of these are 3 stars, with the exception of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. I don't think there's anything wrong with The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. It wasn't really for me. It wasn't something that I really enjoyed reading. And I don't know if it would be all of the ones. I don't know. If I read it again, it may make it a little further up. I just don't think that was for me. I did read it audio, and I know audio definitely can play a part in a book. So maybe if I read it again, I might read it like with my eyeballs instead of with my ears. And then that may change it a little bit, but for now, that's the only one on here that isn't a 3. So we'll quickly read through. This one is completed, but I'll read through the locations. I chose France, England, Australia, Canada, and Japan, and those were all easy. And then one, like I'll find those ones sort of no matter what, as I'm just naturally reading. And then the other 6 are ones that I don't know that I've necessarily read books specifically set in those locations in recent years. Iraq, Jordan, Germany, Romania. That one, I personally have read several books in Romania, but then maybe not everybody does. Greece and Norway. Yeah, so have been enjoying this. This part of it was really easy. It is a bonus. It is not one that you have to do in order to do the literary escapes. It's considered bonus to do the countries, at least on the Storygraph. But yeah, having a lot of fun with this one, and I will see you on the next update. Bye, guys.